The cabin was buzzing with quiet chatter as passengers settled into their seats for the long flight. Among them was a graceful woman dressed in soft beige, her husband beside her scrolling through emails, and their 2 children gazing out the window with excitement. They didn't draw much attention until a flight attendant paused beside them, her polite smile stiffening when she glanced at the boarding passes. "I'm sorry," she said curtly. "There must be some mistake. You can't sit here." Confused, the woman calmly explained that these were their assigned first-class seats, but the attendant's tone grew sharp, her voice carrying through the cabin. Whispers spread, and curious eyes turned toward the family. The mother's heart tightened. She could feel the judgment in every stare. Her husband stayed composed, his voice steady as he said, "There's no mistake. These are our tickets." But the attendant didn't listen. Instead, she called security, insisting the family step off the plane. Passengers watched in silence as the family gathered their things, dignity intact but pain visible in their eyes. What the flight attendant didn't know was who she had just humiliated a billionaire family, quietly known for their philanthropy and grace. Within hours, her decision would become the story that changed her life forever. As the jet doors closed behind them and the murmurs filled the cabin, no one could have predicted how quickly the truth would come out, or how deep her regret would run. As the family stepped off the plane, the mother held her children close, forcing a calm smile so they wouldn't sense the sting of humiliation. Her husband Michael stayed silent, his expression unreadable. He wasn't just a man in an expensive suit, he was the founder of a major tech company, one that had quietly funded scholarships, hospitals, and community projects across the country. But none of that mattered in that moment. To the crowd that watched them leave, they were just another family being escorted out. In the airport lounge, an airline manager rushed over, puzzled by the sudden removal. The attendant's report claimed there had been security concerns, but nothing about the family's records matched that. Meanwhile, passengers on the plane whispered among themselves, some uneasy with how quickly the situation had escalated. One young woman in the front row had filmed the entire scene, her phone trembling in her hands. She knew what she saw didn't feel right. Back in the terminal, the children asked their mother why they couldn't fly. She knelt down, brushing away their tears, saying softly, "Sometimes people judge before they understand." Michael looked out the window at the plane they should have been on, his jaw tightening. He had stayed quiet to protect his family's peace, but that silence wouldn't last. Unaware of the storm about to unfold, the flight attendant took her position, thinking the problem was solved. She had no idea that by the time the plane landed, her world would be turned upside down. As the plane soared into the clouds, the flight attendant, Emma, tried to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping into her chest. Something about the way the man had looked at her before leaving, calm, controlled, almost disappointed, lingered in her mind. But she brushed it away, convincing herself she had followed protocol. Still, when she overheard a few passengers whispering about how uncomfortable the incident felt, her confidence wavered. Meanwhile, in the airport lounge, Michael's assistant had already arrived with his laptop and phone. Within minutes, news alerts started pinging. The video from the young woman on the plane had begun circulating online, and the comments were flooding in. People were questioning the airline's judgment, calling it unfair and disrespectful. The story was spreading faster than anyone could control, and Michael, though still calm, knew this wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. Back on the flight, Emma's supervisor received an urgent message from headquarters. He glanced at her with concern, asking quietly, what exactly happened with that family? Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to explain, realizing that her version of events didn't sound right anymore. At the same time, Michael's wife Alana was on the phone with their legal team, not to sue, but to make sure the airline understood what had gone wrong. She wanted change, not headlines. Yet, as the story gained traction worldwide, it was no longer just about one flight. It was about something deeper: respect, perception, and how quickly people could be judged by appearances alone. By the time the plane landed, the situation had spiraled far beyond what anyone on board could imagine. The video had gone viral, gathering millions of views in just a few hours. News anchors were replaying the clip on repeat, analyzing every word, every expression. The world now knew that the family escorted off the flight wasn't just any family, it was the Morgans, one of the most respected billionaire families known for their kindness and quiet generosity. Emma's heart sank when she checked her phone during landing. Her name was already trending online, her face captured in the background of the video. Dozens of messages flooded in from coworkers and friends, asking what happened. Passengers began murmuring, realizing they had been part of something much bigger than a routine misunderstanding. The tension in the cabin was thick as Emma stood frozen by the galley, unsure how to face the people around her. At the same time, in a quiet hotel suite nearby, Michael and Alana sat surrounded by their team. Reporters were camping outside the airport, and airline executives were frantically trying to make contact. Michael's expression remained calm, but the weight in his eyes said everything. He didn't want sympathy, he wanted truth to surface. When the airline called, offering a public apology, Alana's voice was steady. "This isn't just about us," she said. "It's about how many others were treated the same way and stayed silent." But the world was waiting for their response, and the next move could change everything. Just as the airline prepared to release its apology. A new video surfaced this time from another passenger sitting a few rows behind the family. The footage revealed something the first clip hadn't shown before the confrontation. Emma had received a message on her tablet from a supervisor instructing her to double-check the family's seats due to a system flag. It wasn't her personal bias alone, it was an internal mistake, one that had wrongly marked the Morgans' tickets as fraudulent. But instead of clearing it up quietly, the moment spiraled when Emma reacted too quickly. Afraid of breaking procedure, the revelation changed everything. Reporters began digging deeper, uncovering that the airline's system had glitched several times before, flagging passengers who didn't fit expected profiles for premium class. The story now wasn't just about one flight attendant, it was about a larger pattern that no one had dared to talk about publicly. Emma, watching the news from her apartment that night, felt her heart pounding. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone, but now she was the face of something much bigger than herself. At the same time, Michael and Alana faced a new dilemma. If they spoke now, the issue could push the airline into full crisis, but if they stayed silent, the deeper truth might stay hidden. As dawn approached, messages from global leaders, celebrities and passengers poured in, demanding answers. The Morgans knew the next step they took wouldn't just clear their names, it could expose an entire system built on silent assumptions. The next morning, the world watched as Michael and Alana Morgan appeared at a live press conference. Cameras flashed as they took the stage, calm but firm. Michael spoke first, his voice steady. "This isn't about anger or revenge," he said. "It's about what happens when technology and assumptions replace empathy." His words echoed across every news channel, striking a nerve with millions of viewers. The airline's executives, seated in the front row, shifted uneasily. Then came the twist no one expected. Instead of demanding compensation or filing a lawsuit, Michael announced that his foundation would partner with the airline to fund a global training initiative, one focused on human awareness, unbiased service, and fair technology. The room fell silent. Even Emma, who sat watching the broadcast from her apartment, couldn't hold back tears. She had spent sleepless nights filled with guilt, expecting only backlash, but here was the man she had wronged, turning humiliation into change. Moments later, the airline CEO stepped forward, admitting the internal system fault and publicly apologizing to the Morgans. Emma was reinstated not as a flight attendant, but as part of the new training team, helping others learn from her mistake. As the cameras clicked and the applause began, Alana looked at her husband and whispered, "Sometimes grace speaks louder than power." The world agreed. What began as a painful misunderstanding ended as a turning point, a reminder that even the smallest actions can create change far beyond the sky. Weeks later, the story that once filled headlines slowly turned into something far more meaningful. The Morgan Initiative, as it came to be known, became a model for other airlines and companies worldwide. Training programs were introduced that focused on respect, empathy, and fair judgment, values often forgotten in fast-moving systems. Airports began showing small but powerful changes, from more attentive staff to better technology checks, ensuring no family would ever face the same humiliation again. For Emma, life had come full circle. She spent months working alongside new recruits, sharing her story not as a warning, but as a lesson in humility and second chances. Her courage to face her mistake made her a symbol of growth and grace. She wrote a heartfelt letter to the Morgans, thanking them for their forgiveness and their faith in change. As for Michael and Alana, they returned to their quiet lives, continuing their charitable work with an even deeper purpose. The incident that could have broken their peace became a reminder of their strength and compassion. When asked by a reporter what kept them calm through it all, Michael simply said, "Because anger divides, but understanding heals." The story ended not with blame, but with hoop, reminder that humanity still matters more than status or wealth. And somewhere above the clouds, on a flight much like that first one, a new attendant smiled warmly at a family boarding their seats, proving that kindness always finds its way back.